If you've ever felt like your brain suddenly goes blank the moment people are watching you, it can feel humiliating. You know the answer. You practiced the words. You were fine 5 minutes ago. Then pressure hits. And suddenly, nothing. Maybe your chest tightens. Maybe your voice gets smaller. Maybe you stare at your screen, your notes, the person in front of you, and your mind just disappears. And the worst part is, later, when the moment is over, everything comes back. You think, why couldn't I just speak? Why did I shut down? Why am I like this? If that hits, keep watching, because what's happening is not laziness, weakness, or stupidity. It's a pattern. Today we're talking about why you freeze under pressure, what your brain is doing, why it feels so hard to control, and how to start shifting it. There's a well-researched reason why your mind can go silent when the stakes feel high. And once you understand the pattern, you stop hating yourself for it. This is a loop, not your personality. The first sign is simple: the more important the moment feels, the less access you have to your thoughts. You're in class, your teacher asks you something. You knew it yesterday, you knew it this morning, but now everyone is looking at you, and your brain acts like the information was deleted. Or you're in a meeting, a conversation, an argument, and suddenly you can't form a clear sentence. This happens because under threat, your brain starts prioritizing safety over performance. It is not asking, how can I sound smart? It is asking, am I safe right now? And sometimes, being watched, judged, criticized, or put on the spot can feel like danger to your system. Not because you're dramatic. Because somewhere along the way, pressure became connected to consequences. Maybe you were laughed at. Maybe you were corrected harshly. Maybe mistakes were treated like character flaws. So now, your brain doesn't just see a question. It sees a threat. The next sign is subtle, but powerful. You may notice that under pressure, you don't argue, you don't explain, you don't defend yourself. You just go quiet. And later, you replay the conversation and think of everything you should have said. The comeback, the boundary, the explanation, the truth. But in the moment, your body chose silence. Here's where it gets weird. Silence can be a survival strategy. If speaking up used to make things worse, your system may have learned that quiet is safer than honesty. This does not mean you have no opinions. It does not mean you are weak. It means your brain may have learned, when tension rises, disappear. That disappearing can look like nodding when you disagree, smiling when you're uncomfortable, saying, it's fine, when it is absolutely not fine. And if you've done that for years, it can feel automatic. Most people miss this one. You study hard, you rehearse the conversation, you plan the presentation, you write down what you want to say. Then the real moment comes, and your preparation doesn't save you. This can make you feel even more frustrated because you did everything right. But freezing is not usually a knowledge problem. It is an access problem. Your thoughts are there, but when pressure spikes, your brain may lock the door to them. Think of it like having files on a computer that suddenly crashes. The files still exist, you just can't open them in that moment. This is why telling yourself, just calm down, usually doesn't work. If calm were available, you would already choose it. This pattern often starts when performance became tied to approval. Maybe being good, impressive, helpful, or perfect got you attention. Maybe mistakes brought embarrassment. So now, even small moments can feel like a test of your worth. The next sign is subtle, but powerful. Freezing is not only mental, it can feel physical. Your body gets heavy, your throat tightens, your face feels hot, your hands feel awkward. You may feel like you are watching the situation from far away. You want to move, speak, act, decide, but something in you hits pause. This is why, just be confident, is such useless advice. Confidence is not a button. When your body believes a situation is unsafe, it may slow you down before your conscious mind can explain what is happening. This is the part of freeze under pressure that people misunderstand. They think freezing means you are doing nothing. But inside, your system is doing a lot. It is scanning for danger. It is trying not to make the wrong move. It is trying to reduce harm. This is a loop, not your personality. And sometimes, the loop came from environments where quick reactions were punished. So your body learned, pause first. Decide later. Here's where it gets weird. Under pressure, you may stop focusing on the task and start focusing on faces. Are they annoyed? Are they judging me? Did their tone change? Did I say something wrong? Instead of staying connected to yourself, your attention jumps outside of you. You start reading the room like your safety depends on it. And for some people, it once did. If you grew up around unpredictable reactions, you may have learned to track moods very carefully. You noticed footsteps, facial expressions, silence, tone changes, tiny shifts in energy. That skill may have helped you adapt. But now, in normal pressure situations, it can overload you. Because your mind is not just answering a question or making a choice. It is also trying to predict everyone's reaction. That is exhausting. And when your attention is split between the actual moment and the imagined consequences, freezing becomes more likely. Most people miss this one. The freeze itself is hard. But the shame afterward can be worse. You walk away and start attacking yourself. Why did I act like that? Why can everyone else handle this? I looked so awkward. I ruined it. That shame can trick you into thinking the freeze proves something about who you are. But shame is not always telling the truth. Sometimes it is just your brain trying to create control after a moment where you felt powerless. It says, if I blame myself enough, maybe I can stop this from happening again. But self-attack does not create safety. It usually creates more pressure. And more pressure makes freezing more likely next time. That is the trap. You freeze, then shame yourself for freezing, then become even more afraid of freezing again. This is how a moment becomes a pattern. The next sign is subtle, but powerful. Maybe you stop raising your hand. You avoid hard conversations. You let other people decide. You stay quiet in groups. You don't apply for the thing. You don't send the message. At first, avoidance feels like relief. No pressure, no risk, no embarrassment. But over time, avoidance can quietly shrink your life. Not all at once, just little by little. You start trusting yourself less because you have fewer chances to prove that you can handle discomfort. And here's the tough love part. Avoiding pressure completely can make pressure feel even scarier. Not because you failed. Because your brain never gets updated evidence. It never learns. I can feel uncomfortable and still survive this. I can pause and still speak. I can make a mistake and still be okay. The goal is not to become fearless. The goal is to become recoverable. That means even if you freeze, you know how to come back. Here's where it gets weird. Most people try to beat freezing with force. They tell themselves, stop being nervous. Don't mess this up. Act normal. Be confident. But pressure plus self-command often creates more pressure. A better shift is to work with your body, not against it. First, name what is happening quietly. I'm freezing. Not as an insult, as information. Second, lower the stakes with one small action. Take a breath before answering. Ask someone to repeat the question. Say, give me a second to think. Look at your notes. Put both feet on the floor. Small actions tell your brain, we are not trapped. Third, practice pressure in tiny doses. Speak once in a low-risk setting. Ask one question. Say one honest sentence. Make one small decision faster than usual. You do not need to throw yourself into the deep end. You need to teach your system that pressure is not always danger. And the fastest way to do that is through repeated moments of safe discomfort. Not perfection. Repetition. Because the freeze response gets stronger through repetition, but it can also soften through repetition. You are not trying to become someone else. You are training your brain to stay with you when the moment gets intense. You're not broken. You're not secretly weak. You're not missing some special confidence gene that everyone else received. Freezing is a mechanism, not an identity. It is your system trying to protect you using an old strategy that may no longer fit your current life. And honestly, that deserves compassion. Not because you should stay stuck, but because shame makes healing harder. You can be responsible for changing a pattern without blaming yourself for having it. That is the difference. Blame says, this is who I am. Responsibility says, this is something I can learn to work with. And when you stop turning every freeze into proof that something is wrong with you, you create space for change. You start noticing the moment earlier. You recover faster. You speak after the pause. You try again after the awkward moment. That is progress. Not becoming perfect. Not never freezing again. Progress is returning to yourself sooner. One last thing. The deepest shift is this. Freezing under pressure is often not about the situation in front of you. It is about what the situation represents. Being judged. Being rejected. Being wrong. Being too much. Not being enough. So the real work is not just learning how to perform better. It is learning how to stay connected to yourself when your old alarm system gets loud. That means you stop asking, "How do I never freeze again?" And you start asking, "What helps me come back?" A breath helps. A pause helps. A prepared sentence helps. A safe person helps. Practice helps. Because when you understand why you freeze under pressure, the moment stops feeling like a personal failure. It becomes a signal. And signals can be worked with. I've linked something in the description and pinned comment that I think a lot of you will find genuinely useful. It's a bundle of simple structured guides designed to genuinely help you understand your patterns, regulate your reactions, and start making small shifts that actually feel doable. Not fake motivation. Not just be confident. Actual structure. And I want you to comment one word below: pause. Because sometimes that is the first win, not reacting perfectly. Just creating enough space to return to yourself. If this video helped you understand why you freeze under pressure, like it, subscribe, and stay close to this kind of work. This video is for educational purposes and not a substitute for professional advice. This is a loop, not your personality. See you there.